Good morning, everybody. First of all, I wish to thank Dr. Sinking and Daniel Morgan Graduate School of National Security for giving me the chance to meet all of you and talk something about my country, how we have promoting good relationship with our neighboring countries, not only with the neighboring countries, but also with the rest of the world. Before I talk about our relationship with our neighbors and Asia, and in particular, I wish to tell you something about our country, its people, and how we have initiated and the background of our foreign ministry, and also how we formulated our foreign relations, the policy towards relationship with all the countries in the world. Well, as you know, Myanmar is a country in Southeast Asia. It is located between the two big countries in the world. They are the People's Republic of China in the north and the Republic of India in the west. And we have five neighboring countries. Bangladesh in the west, Bangladesh and India in the west, China in the north, and the northeast and east are Laos, People's Democratic Republic, and Thailand. Well, we are surrounded by five countries where you can look at. I'll show you what the population of our neighboring countries are, and how we are having friendly relations with all these countries. The population is about 52.98 million. That is the result of the census done by the United Nations in 2014. So the land area is about over 261,000 square miles, slightly smaller than the state of Texas. When you look at the world and put a needle in the globe from Myanmar, the end of the needle will reach the state of Texas. So we are just opposite from one another. We are a country of multi-ethnic, multi-religion, and there are also people who have settled from other parts of the world. And the GDP in 2015-2016, the value of GDP is 56.64 billion US dollars, and the growth rate is about 7.3% according to the World Bank. And the per capita income is about slightly over $1,000 US. Our country is one of the least developed country in the world, and we became the country of least developed countries in 1987. Well, this is the general situation of our country. I'll go to as I have mentioned earlier, our country's location and our neighbors and the population of each neighbors. China is in the north, and population is over 1.3 billion. India is in the west, population is over 1.3 billion. Bangladesh is in the west, 163 million. Thailand and Laos in the east, where Thailand's population is nearly 70 million, and Laos is a country that has smaller size and also less people than our country, with the population of 6.758 million. And the total borders, when you look at the boundary of our country, the land boundary is about 3,921 miles, where we have about 1,400 miles of coastline. This is the coastline that starts from the Rakhine State in the west, that also has a border with Thailand in the southeast part of our country. Well, when you look at the foreign policy of post-independence, we attained independence from the United Kingdom on the 4th of January 1948. Before we become an independent country in 4th of January 1948, we were under the British for over 100 years. The first Anglo-Burman War was waged in 1824, and the lower part of Myanmar, lower part of Burma became under British. The second Anglo-Burman War was fought in 1852, and the half of our country became the British colony. And in 1855, there was a third and a final war between Myanmar and the British, and the entire country became the British colony on the 1st of January 1886. So this is the background history of our country, and since we became the British colony, various national leaders struggled for independence, and one of the most prominent independent leader was General Aung San, who is the father of our leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Well, our country became an independent country on the 4th of January 1948. Before Aung San our country became an independent country, General Aung San went to UK to talk about our country's future with the British leaders. And following the negotiation with the British leaders, there was an executive council was formed, and the transitional government was formed in 1948. Aung San was the prime minister of the transitional executive councils of Burma in 1947, and while he was trying to achieve total independence from Britain, he was assassinated on the 19th of July before the country achieved independence in 1948. Well, the country's location and the background history, and the culture have a strong bearing on the foreign policy of our country. The foreign policy, soon after we became independent, we introduced this policy of positive neutrality, because when you look at the country's position, you will know how delicate and how sensitive we have to deal with our neighboring countries with respect to our foreign relations. So we have laid down a policy of positive neutrality in 1948. And also, Myanmar was, at that time, Myanmar was known as Burma, and Burma was a country that is one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement that had its first meeting in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, in 1961. So, together with the positive neutrality, we also practiced the non-aligned foreign policy in the early years after the independence. The country had a short history of democratically elected government. In 1962, because of the deteriorating situation in the country, the military government took over the control of the country. And since 1962 to 2010, different forms of military governments took control of the government until the free and fair elections were held in November 2010. And at present, the government is led by a first civilian government in over 50 years. In 1971, the ruling party at that time was called Burma Socialist Program Party, and the PSPP laid down a foreign policy that is called an independent foreign policy. That is also based on the non-aligned movement, non-aligned policy. And there was a constitution of 1974 that was enacted by the then government. And in the Article 26 of the 1974 Constitution of Burma, the foreign policy was as shown, an independent foreign policy aimed at international peace and friendly relations among nations and upholds the principles of peaceful coexistence of nations. Well, in 1988, there was another general disturbances in our country, and another military government took over the situation of the country. Then government also reaffirmed its foreign policy that the independent and active foreign policy will be withheld and promoted. And there was another referendum to enact the latest constitution in May 2008. The constitution was supported and also passed by the majority of the people in the country. And according to that 2008 constitution, the foreign policy of the country is the independent, active, and non-aligned policy. This is the general, this is the development of our foreign policy from 1948 until now. Well, before I have told you before that the foreign policy of our country has a strong bearing on our geographical position and our culture and how we have struggled for independence, and also to put ourselves in other places in formulating the international relations. That is why General Aung San became the first foreign minister while he was taking the position of the Prime Minister of Burma at that time. And on 23rd March 1947, he sent a Burmese delegation to New Delhi, where there was an important meeting in New Delhi called the Asian Relations Conference. And he emphasized his vision of countries of Asia to become oneness, to be part of, to be regional grouping. And in his message, he mentioned that the conference will be guided in the task before by a new consciousness of oneness of Asia, that he wished that one day Asia, countries in Asia will become one entity working together in peace and harmony. And that is why he wanted to see the Asia united together in the future. But as I have mentioned, he didn't have the chance to witness the development of Asia and the development of his beloved country when he was assassinated on the 19th of July in 1947. Well, the foreign policy of Myanmar, our country at present is, as I have mentioned, according to under the Constitution of 2008 and Article 41, the foreign policy of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar will be an independent, active, and non-aligned foreign policy. We will not commence any aggression against any nation, and also no foreign troops shall be permitted to deploy in the territory of the Union. This is clearly mentioned in our Constitution. And also, talking about our relationship with our neighboring countries and the rest of the world, we must also mention that we are also the founder of the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence that was announced in 1954. This is the one of the principles of the non-aligned movement, and also principles of the ASEAN regional organization that Myanmar belongs to. It is, we feel that this is the policy principle that governs the cornerstone of international relations to promote peace and develop in the world. This is the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence are: mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. In 1954, the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence were promoted by the 3 countries, that is China, India, and Myanmar. And following the announcement of these principles, the 3 leaders attended a very important meeting in Bali, in Bandung, in Indonesia, that will lead to the formation of non-aligned movement in 1961. The core objectives of our foreign policies are to enhance the nation's security. To enhance the nation's security, as I have mentioned earlier, our country's location is very, I must say that it is a very delicate location, and we have to be mindful of all the developments that are developing in our neighbors. That is why we will always be mindful and pay attention to the political and economic developments and socio-cultural developments that are taking place in our neighboring countries in particular. And to enhance the nation's economic affluence. When you look at the country, there are diversity of ethnic nationalities in our country. Bamar is the major ethnic national, while we have other minorities such as Kachin, Kayin, Kaya, Chin, Shan, and Rakhine. And these are the nationalities of our country. The country's leadership has to look after and to take into consideration of the welfare and economic development of all these people in the country. And these many of the minority of our minority nationalities are living in the border areas that are very close to our neighboring countries. And there is a lack of development in the areas for a long time. We have to look for the economic development, and this is one of the priorities of the current government. And also to promote a peaceful and equitable world order, because we have witnessed all the difficulties, all the struggle between different ideologies and the war in our region. In order to avoid from this situation in the past, we would like to see a peaceful and equitable world that is that has that can ensure harmony in all the countries in the world. Well, when you look at the diplomatic relations with our country and the rest of the world, we give priority on issues to implement our foreign policies effectively, reflecting domestic policies. That is why the government is now trying to promote economy. At the same time, we are also trying to achieve nationwide peace in the country. The country has been under armed struggle for a long time. Following the independence, many nationalities took their arms and fought the government. Because of the internal strife and the armed struggle in the different nationalities with the government, the country wasn't able to develop as the people, the entire people wished to see in the past. That is one of the priorities of the government at present, and we are also trying to promote this in the rest of the world and to seek support from the countries who are close to us. That includes the United States. And to conduct bilateral and multilateral relations. What I'm doing now is to promote bilateral relations with the United States, while my colleagues in the United Nations and other international organizations are also trying to promote how to promote our national interest with the rest of the countries in the world. We have so far established diplomatic relations with 121 countries, where over 190 countries are members of the United Nations. We feel that it is quite an achievement that we are, but we are still trying to get more and more friends all over the world and to have diplomatic relations with many countries as possible. Our country is not a rich country, but we have opened diplomatic missions in 44 places all over the world. Myanmar maintains friendly relations with all the countries, and in particular with our neighboring countries, follow a policy of non-alignment, and also uphold the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. Well, as I have mentioned, our relationship with our neighbors is the cornerstone of our foreign policy. Although we have a good relations, we promote good relations with all the countries in the world, but in particular, relationship with our neighboring countries are very, very important. We attach great importance to fostering friendly ties with our neighbors. We share similar historical and cultural values. Look at the countries of our neighboring countries. India also struggled for independence from Britain, so as Bangladesh, and also they had a war of separation in early 70s, and also look at China. China also had to struggle internally to achieve its current position. Laos PDR also was under French for a long time. Well, with Thailand, Thailand was not a colony of any major power, but we share similarities in our culture and religion. That is why we attach importance with all our neighbors. We have lived harmoniously in difficult times in supporting each other in various regional and international fora. As I have mentioned earlier, Myanmar supported the Asia Relations Conference. In fact, the Asia Relations Conference didn't develop as the leaders wished. But now we have the countries in Asia have become more closely with each other, and we are engaging with all the countries in the rest of the world. We have a common desire to promote peace and achievement and economic development. Myanmar's roles in the international affairs. Myanmar together with the newly independent countries in Asia and Pacific participated in Asian and African Conference. That was the forerunner of the non-aligned movement held in Bandung, Indonesia. They have laid down the 10 principles of peaceful coexistence. That was held in April 1955. And we were one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement. That was, the first meeting was held in Belgrade, Yugoslavia in 1961. And Myanmar National was one of the Secretary General of the United Nations, and his name is U Thant, and he served as the Secretary General of the United Nations for 10 years at the most difficult time that includes the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Suez Crisis. And while we were actively participating as a member of the non-aligned movement. At one stage, at the summit held in Havana, Cuba in September 1979, the leader of Myanmar delegation reminded the movement that they should review its original principles that were already being deviating from its founding, the principles that the founding members wished to see. So, following that statement, Myanmar, there was no action taken by the non-aligned movement. Myanmar left the movement in September 1979 at its summit in Havana. But times were changing, and times changed, and there were changes in the country as well. In following the military coup in 1988, Myanmar felt that the country must engage with the rest of the world again in the world arena. So we decided to rejoin the non-aligned movement in 1992, September. Well, now may I go to another topic of Myanmar actively participating in the world organizations. Well, Myanmar became the member of the United Nations following its independence in April 1948, and we became the member of ASEAN in 1997. And we are now a member of Greater Mekong Sub-region, and we are also a member of the Ayeyarwady Chowphraya Mekong Economic Cooperation Strategy. That is a regional grouping that is formed with four countries. We are also a member of the BIMSTEC. How can I stop this? Okay. We are also a member of the BIMSTEC. That is a regional grouping called Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation that was established in 1997. And apart from this BIMSTEC, we are also a member of the Lower Mekong Initiative. That is the US-led sub-regional cooperation mechanism. That is where the riparian countries of Mekong River are working together with the United States on the transnational development policy issues and the challenges in the Mekong Delta area. Previously, Myanmar was not included in the LMI during the time we were isolated from the rest of the world, but we are now part of the Mekong, Lower Mekong Initiative, working together with the United States. And we are also part of the G77, a group of 77 in China. It's an economic grouping. It's a grouping of countries that work for the economic development. It was formed in 1964, and the founding members were only 77 members, but now it has now reached to 134 countries, including China. They are working very closely in the United Nations Second Committee, Economic and Social Committee. We are also part of the Asia-Europe meeting called ASEM. Now, Asia and Europe, as I have mentioned earlier, Asia and European countries are working together to foster dialogue and cooperation between Asia and Europe. There are at least now 53 partners, 21 countries from Asia, and the 30 countries from Europe. And during the meetings, these representatives talk about political security, political, economic, social, cultural, and educational issues. There will be a meeting in Myanmar. Foreign ministers meeting will be held in Myanmar in coming November. And the next summit between Asia and Europe will be held in Belgium, Brussels, Belgium, next year. We are also a member of Asia Cooperation Dialogue. It's a country where 33 countries are included. We were the founding member, and it's a grouping of different regional groupings, namely ASEAN, South Asia Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, and the Gulf Cooperation Council. Well, before I conclude, I would like to tell you how Myanmar views Asia. We view that Asia we belong to the region where the largest and most diverse people living in the world, that covering 30% of the land area. And it's a home for the majority of the people in the world, and 4.4 million and half the world's population. And it's a cradle of many early civilizations, and it is the largest market in the world and the rich pool of human resources. That is why, and we attach importance with our neighbors, and that is why we are working together to promote peace and development. And also, we feel that this is the region of a driving force that will have a strong bearing and development for the global economy. And as the World Bank has focused that China and large economies in the Southeast Asia and economies of developing East Asia and Pacific countries will continue to grow in the future. And this is the last point: is there's a decrease in the incidence of poverty in our region. That includes our country, and we look forward to working closely with all the countries in the world, and that sustained growth is rising, and labor income is also increasing. We want to take the chance of the growing economy in the world and also in our region. And there are changes in the country after more than 50 years of different forms of military government. And we look forward to working closely with all the countries, including the United States. The State Councilor of our country, Aung San Suu Kyi, visited the United States in September last year. following the meeting with the United States government, the United States government ended its national emergency and lifted all the remaining sanctions that were imposed on our country. And also the generalized system of preferences were also accorded to Myanmar. We want to make use of these chances that we missed in the past. Please, I am now working very hard to achieve the wishes of the people of our country and to bring closer to bring closer to the two countries, and not only the two governments but also with the two peoples. There were no war between our two countries. We were not adversaries in the past. We want to see how the two countries will work together to develop our economy, and also that will contribute for peace and development in our region. This is what I'm doing in this country, and I would also wish to see your support to see what the people of our two countries have missed in the past. Our people are so eager to develop a good relationship with the United States. Not only with the United States, but also to the rest of the world, because we have missed so many chances in the past. We were one of the affluent countries in our region, but because of the situation, the fate of our country has brought down to the level where the country became the least developed country and the poorest countries in the world. Well, this is the karma, and this is the fate of our country, and we have now given a chance to work very hardly, and we will work hard, and also we wish to see your support, and please be sure that you will not fail by working with us. And I thank your presence, and I thank your interest to be present today.